For Mississippi State football and SEC baseball. So yeah, he brings a lot to the game, and he's right here.
Right now!
Online at thezone1059.com and on your radio at ESPN 105.9 The Zone.
Well, what do you know? He's back. And by he, I mean JB, not me. Where was JB yesterday? What was he doing yesterday for 3 hours? No, look, it's all my fault. I hated having to miss yesterday's show with y'all. There was so much going on, but it's just one of those things, man. That's what they say. It's just one of them things. You know what I'm talking about. Not one of those things, but one them things. You know what I mean. It's just one of those things. So I'm back today, and I am glad to be back with you here in the Farm Bureau studio. Farm Bureau, go with the home team. They are your home team at Farm Bureau Insurance across the great state of Mississippi. Available to you in all 82 counties across the great state, the Magnolia State. Hometown heroes, that's what they are at Farm Bureau. We stay connected to you because of C Spire, the #1 network in Mississippi. C Spire, customer inspired. In just a little bit, I'm going to raise some really, really important questions for you. Some sports related, some not. Like, for instance, if all 14 presidents in the SEC were to vote, if they had to vote, all 14 of them in the SEC, to go forward with football or not, how would that vote go? See, sports-related question. Other questions like, did JB miss me yesterday? All of that's coming up. First, let's start it off right.
25 seconds left to play.
You're listening to the Matt Wyatt Show.
I want winners.
This crowd is alive.
Play to win the game.
Wyatt from the shotgun, two backs alongside.
Knock him out, John.
Wyatt gets the ball.
It won't be long.
Wyatt back to throw. Wyatt looks, fires toward the end zone. Passes, caught for a touchdown by Matthew Butler.
Speak to
The Matt Wyatt Show. He's Radio Wyatt.
Well, how am I going to go to college? I'll just play football.
Hey, now it feels right. Now it just feels right. It's kind of like when you hear the sonic boom, it feels like football. Oh, by the way, yeah, that's coming up too. It feels like a normal radio show when you guys start texting me on the Country Pleasing text line at 885-ESPN. Remember that number? Y'all remember? It ain't like I've been gone for a week. Of course you remember that number, 885-ESPN. Text me there and I'll read it on the show. Hey to everybody who's watching on Facebook. Danny, the first to get in here on Facebook, and says, waiting on a medical test, watching Matt Wyatt, Hail State. Well, I hope that sends you some good vibes. You get a good report. JB, welcome back.
What's happening?
Did you miss me yesterday?
I did, but I actually got to have lunch with a good buddy yesterday. We talked a lot of sports, but ate a lot of pizza pie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
baby.
Man.
Yeah. Was it Lost Pizza or was it somewhere else?
No, it was another place.
I got you.
I guess I could say it. Soul Shine.
Attaboy. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
made my soul shine.
I think I have been to the Soul Shine Pizza in Oxford, but I don't think I've been to the one in Jackson.
There's two. There's one near the Renaissance in the Ridgeland, Madison area on Highland Colony Parkway, and then there's one out on Lakeland Drive, almost to Northwest Rankin, right by Legends Sports Grill.
Okay,
who's a proud sponsor of this station here.
Yeah, absolutely. Which one do you think gets more traffic?
Oh man, well the one in Flowood is a lot bigger, and I think it gets a lot more traffic there. Yeah. But the one in Ridgeland, every time I go in there, they're packed, so just not as big.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Well, I'm glad you got to do that. I hated to miss the show yesterday. I got to go working on some stuff and meet a few of the people and work with a few people with Farm Bureau in Grenada yesterday. And the route that I drove was, from Tupelo. I went through some of these small towns like Houston and then to Vardaman and then Durham and then Calhoun City and then over to Grenada from there. I don't know if you're familiar. But
you took the long cut.
Well, actually, I think distance-wise, it's the shortest route, but it takes the longer because it's mostly two-lane roads, and you got to make a turn here or there. You do have to go right right through downtown Vardaman, right through downtown Calhoun City, which interesting. The thing about Calhoun City, JB, is like if you're traveling into Calhoun City on Highway 8, you're heading, Highway 8 is going one direction, right? Then Highway 8 must go around the square, and when you continue on Highway 8, now it shoots you off the square going an entirely different direction, but it's still Highway 8. It's funny how that works, But yes, it might take a little long, but it was an easy trip and got to kind of go through there and see some stuff. And I always do this when I have time, is if I'm traveling through places, especially small towns, I like to ahead of time look up and learn some of the local history, like about the place and how it got its name and when it was, incorporated and why is there a town there and who's responsible for it. And that was interesting. I did that yesterday. I like to learn about these small towns in Mississippi. So
you find a place to eat local when you go there as well?
Well, I tell you, I don't know if it's like a combination of being cheap and always being in a hurry, but no is the answer. I don't ever do that. Yesterday, I was done with we got started early yesterday morning, earlier, I did anyway, and worked on up. And I was actually back on the road traveling within, I guess, probably back on the road traveling around 1 o'clock or so. So it would have been in the realm of going and eating somewhere, right? Well, before I left home, I packed snacks. So not a meal, but I had like apples and bananas and granola bars and
no lemon heads, no Milky Ways, no Snickers.
None of that. What? There was something. Oh, the Werther's candies, those are in there.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just eat all that stuff in the car, and I'm like, I don't have time to stop for an hour somewhere anyway. Right. I am terrible. I am so glad the world is not like me and other people aren't like me, because if they were, almost nobody would eat at restaurants. And then two, if everybody was like me, sporting events would be no fun because you'd go to a game and nobody'd say anything. I'm the most, if I'm not calling the game on radio or TV, I'm the most silent person ever at a sporting event. I'm listening and consuming everything. I'm not a part of it. It never occurs to me during the course of a ball game to go, woo, woo.
Come on now. When the Chiefs won the Super Bowl, you didn't get the least bit excited?
Oh, yes, I definitely get excited, but I don't scream.
Right.
I don't clap.
You don't throw pillows at the TV or anything like that?
I did a little fist pump. You can ask Anna Beth. I probably do a little fist pump. I stand in front of the television. I kind of do like this right here, and yes. And that's about all you get out of me. I'm not going, woo! And I'm so glad that 65,000 people do go, woo! And clap, because it makes for this great crowd noise. If they were like me, it'd be boring. So I'm glad people aren't like me. And
there's nobody in the world just like you. That's why nobody in the world will ever be 100% understood by another human being, because we're all just a little different.
Just a tad different. Well, that's good. Yeah, like snowflakes. They're all different. And I know that's double entendre these days. I mean it in the most positive way and not in the most negative. But did you come up with that, or does that straight off of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood?
No, it was kind of a sermon I did a few years ago.
Okay. I like it.
It was called Nobody Understands Me.
I like it. Nobody understands me. That is definitely, it's got a hook there. It'll definitely pull you in. All right. So glad to be back. Apologies for missing yesterday, everyone, and thanks for being back here today. Real quick, Rick on Facebook on the live stream says he's in Dixie and watching and listening. Good day, SEC. Please vote yes for football this fall. Norman, who's watching on Periscope Twitter, says, Matt, I'm moving my oldest into a dorm today. 2020 continues to be crazy. That's from Coffee Norman. I wonder what that's like. Do you have any anxiousness, Norman, about the health part of this, or is it just that they're moving out and growing up? Cody on Facebook says, have you ever had a dough burger from Latham's in New Albany? I have not in New Albany, but I have had a slug burger from one of the small cafes in Corinth. Okay, so dough burger, slug burger, I think they're the same thing. And then my buddy Greg, who's in the Jones County area, he says the first commissioner of the SEC was from a small town, Seminary, Mississippi. How about that? I did not know that. I'm going to look up who it is and the history. Small town history in Mississippi. I'm fascinated with it. Love it. Jason, the first to text me today on the Country Pleasing text line here on this Thursday show. Jason out in Flagstaff says, yay. Yesterday was awful for sports radio from the great state of Mississippi. Everyone was talking about how Trump or Trump hatred was responsible for the conferences canceling or not. I'm stuck over here in Pac-12 country, and I'm like, it ain't that simple, he says. He says, I went right by Camp McCain, should have stopped in and driven a tank. Where's Camp McCain? Maybe I saw a sign for that, Jason. I think maybe I did see that sign and was a little bit curious. And then Jason says, Ham Bones is a good place to eat around there if it's still there. So what are we talking about, Calhoun City or just in Calhoun County? Or Vardaman? Here's what I learned about Vardaman. Vardaman's named after the governor of the state of Mississippi, James Vardaman. He was the governor from 1904 to 1908. But get this, JB. For a long time, the post office in what everybody referred to as Vardaman had a different name. It said Timberville. People are like, well, is this Timberville or is it Vardaman? And they get to look at it, it confused people. Where do I send my letter to? Okay. People found that they were having more success getting their letters and mail and stuff to go through to the residents of Vardaman by addressing it to Timberville than they did if they addressed it to Vardaman. You know why? Well, the postmaster in Timberville, Vardaman, was a guy named Henry Clay. Henry Clay was a huge Theodore Roosevelt supporter. Well, Governor James Vardaman had written some stuff that was very, very critical in the Greenwood paper about Theodore Roosevelt. Henry Clay, the postmaster in Timberville, Vardaman, found out about it and said, we ain't calling this place Vardaman. At least we're not calling this post office the Vardaman post office. It's Timberville. And they didn't get Postmaster Henry Clay out of there and get it fixed and make it Vardaman proper for good until about 1912. If anybody cares, good. Maybe they don't, but that's the kind of stuff I like to learn. So thanks for tuning in. The Real Eric on the Country Pleasing text line, 885-ESPN. The two best tight ends in the NFL, George Kittle of the 49ers and Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs. Mind you, one of them has a Super Bowl ring versus the other. But George Kittle just signed the largest tight end deal in NFL history. Massive 5-year, $75 million extension with $40 million guaranteed. He's good. He's good. He's not better than Travis Kelce, though. He's just not. That's all it is to it.
Who does Kelce play for?
Chiefs! The Kansas City Chiefs. Chiefs Kingdom, baby. Your world champs. I can't even believe I'm saying that. Yeah, I've done it. I've gone back and watched that Super Bowl over and over. Hey, speaking of that, and then I'm coming to the phone lines. We're going to see what Clay wants to talk about real quick. But speaking of that, JB, I'm excited to tell you something we're going to start doing. It's going to start doing it today on the show.
Talk to me.
For about the next month, we're going to take some time in our shows to go back and relive and recount and remember some classic games from around here. And we're going to dial into it, maybe hear a highlight or two and just look back on it. And I'm going to see if there's an interesting angle, here or there. Today I have chosen a game that was a very important game in the history of Mississippi State football. It was right after they went up to number 1. But it's a game nobody talks about, and there are plays in that game that I think were crucial and still are crucial to building what became kind of a new era of Mississippi State football, fun one for State fans, that plays that people have in large part kind of forgotten. And I'm going to tell you what they are, and we're going to relive that. I'm going to explain it all to you coming up on today's show. So we're going to do some more of that. Looking back on big games. Not the Super Bowl. Well, we might. I better leave it open-ended. You never know. All right, here we go. on the Davini Equipment phone line, Davini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson, your Kubota dealer, 995-1059. Clay, hanging on, the first to get in today. Clay, thanks for calling. What's up?
Man, I heard you talking about Calhoun County. You know, that is the epicenter of the creation of the world. I grew up there. My family on the Weeks of Big Star, my dad on the Chevron station right there beside it. But everywhere I've been in the world, my dad was Air Force, retired, military contractor. Everywhere I've been in the world, any airport I've ever been, sit down, just start talking to people because that's how I am. Oh, man, where are you from, Mississippi? Oh, my cousin is from Pittsburgh. my aunt's from Bartman.
Yeah.
I mean, hold on, time out. There's 1,900 people in this whole county. Everywhere we go, I run into somebody who is kin to somebody from Calhoun County. It's the craziest thing.
Isn't that something?
I mean, I know I'm from there, so that makes it. But I told a man, and I was in an airport in Barcelona, Spain, flying back from Riyadh and Saudi Arabia, and started talking to a guy, and I'm like, hey, so where's home? Mississippi. Oh, my cousin is from Pittsburgh. I'm like, huh? Pittsburgh where? Mississippi. I'm like, oh my gosh. There's 10 people in Pittsburgh. You blink and you're through Pittsburgh.
That's right. Hey,
I mean,
and
Calhoun County's a crazy place.
Well, and it's
just because it's so small and everybody knows everybody.
Everybody knows everybody. Well, and the story of, I guess it would take me a minute to go through it, but the story of Derma versus Calhoun City, the fact that I can go and there's a sign that says Derma corporate limit, and in the rearview mirror, literally, I can still see downtown Calhoun City, including the water tower and everything. It's that close, like a mile apart. And
my two best friends growing up, when I went to Calhoun County, were from Derma. I think there were only 2 kids in Derma.
In Derma, yeah. Well, and I got to reading that, like, okay, so it's like 1905. They all find out in Calhoun County that the Mobile, Ohio Railroad's about to come through there. So Derma gets all excited. Derma's going to build the railroad depot. They're going to put it in Derma. It's going to be a big booming town now. Everybody's going to make money. It's going to be great. Well, this wily old Civil War veteran, last name Burkett, hears about it, went up there and bought all that property where Calhoun City is sitting 1 mile away from Derma, hired a bunch of people to come in there and start cutting out roads into a square, okay? Had already convinced a couple of buddies of his who own businesses to move their business in there. And when nobody's really even paying attention, went ahead and built a railroad depot. And so when the Mobile and Ohio Railroad found out about it, they go, well, we're just going through there. They've already got a depot. And everybody in Derma was caught with their pants down, like, what? And here we are years later. Burkett became the city, then it became Calhoun City, the county seat, and Derma's still sitting there about like it was 100 years ago.
I mean, there's not very many people there, but I tell you also, if you go anywhere in the world and you tell somebody you're from Calhoun County, everybody knew a man, and he may have been before your time, he was Rex Jarrett, had the Cavalier Shop.
Oh, yes.
Everybody that's anybody in the world knew Rex Jarrett and knew the Cavalier Shop in Bruce, Mississippi. I mean, it was just... It was crazy.
Hey, but listen, I met him. I met him, Clay. This has been 15, 20 years ago when I was brand new working at the TV station in Tupelo, but I had to go through there for something. Maybe it was a sales call. They sent me through there. I remember meeting that guy. I went into the Cavalier Shop in Bruce. Is it still there?
He gave you. Yeah, I'm still here. He gave you a bottle of Coke, didn't he?
He tried his best to give me one. He sure did. He sure did.
That was his thing. When you walked in that door, man, he greeted you. He'd take you back there and give you a bottle of Coke. A little miniature one, and have a good time. But I have one quick football story for you. He's talking about back in the... So Jerry, when he was at Brandon, they were playing Pearl one night in Brandon. Have you ever been to Brandon's field? You ever seen it?
Yes.
The old field?
Uh-huh.
You know how the baseball stadium sits behind the visitors' bleachers?
Right.
Well, we were sitting in the stands, and he took the opening kickoff back for a touchdown. He touched the ball like 3 times, one offensive and one on a punt return and one on the opening kickoff, and had 3 touchdowns. And a friend of mine was doing the chain gang, and he said the coach grabbed the punter and said, let me tell you something, man. I don't care what you do. You do not punt the ball to him. So the punter takes snap turns, and I mean, I have witnesses that were in the seat. The punter turns, and whether he meant to do it or not, he turns like the punter, and he punts it over the visitors' bleachers toward the baseball field, completely out of the stadium.
That's great.
We all were laughing and joking about it. And the guy who did the chain gang came over, and he was like, after the game, we were talking to him, and he was like, "Yeah, the coach grabbed him and said, I don't care what you do, but you do not punt it to him." But
and he listened.
I ain't think he ended that night with about 5 or 6 touchdowns. Yeah, he did not punt it to him again.
That's great. That is fantastic. What a story.
Anyway.
Well, kid, he's coachable.
All right,
Kid's
man.
coachable. Thanks for the story, Clay.
He is. I'll holler at you.
All right. Don't punt it to him, and the kid punts it onto the baseball field. I love it. Yeah, he's coachable. Kid did what Coach said. Made sure, for doggone sure, that Jarius Norwood couldn't field the punt. Jarius, one of those guys, I wish I could have seen him in high school. Hey, look, man, I mean, I just wish Jarius hadn't gotten banged up when he was with the Falcons. He was so exciting. Jarius was NFL super fast. And what I mean by that is like the high school kid who's obviously faster than everybody else. And then sometimes you watch college games and there's a guy who's faster than everybody else. Jarius Norwood was like Tyreek Hill kind of fast. He's moving faster than everybody else on the field.
Not only the football field, I played softball with him a few tournaments.
Yeah.
I've never seen a guy get around the bases like that.
Oh, of course. I mean, the
God.
guy was fast for the NFL. Look, the only thing NFL defenders had on him at times was an angle because they're not catching him. I just wish he hadn't gotten hurt. All right, lots of comments, Periscope, YouTube, Facebook, coming to y'all. Lots of texts. Jason, Ghost, 100 Grand, Anthony, White, Denzel, everybody coming to y'all next. We're just getting started with you on this Thursday in the Farm Bureau studio. Stay with me.
Farm Bureau Insurance stands ready to provide financial relief to our communities in this time of crisis. This includes a one-time credit to all personal auto policyholders, a donation of $500,000 to the Mississippi Food Network, and additional payment options for those hit the hardest, all while continuing to service customer claims as well. But this is the time to go above and beyond. These are a few ways we're keeping the Farm Bureau promise. To learn more, talk to your agent or visit us online. Go with the home team.
Every farmer understands their farm can't thrive without some good partners like sun, soil, and rain. And farmers in North Mississippi also rely on another important partner, Mississippi Land Bank, because land and farm financing are Mississippi Land Bank's primary focus. We've grown alongside these farmers' crops for more than 100 years. We understand what a farmer needs, and we know the lay of the land in North Mississippi, and that's where I stand.
Bull. There's a lot of that out there in the wireless world. But C Spire believes that you deserve a plan that is what it actually says it is. Here's the real deal. The best plan for 1 or 2 lines. Unlimited talk and text with 10 gigabytes of high-speed data. And here's the real deal. $45 per line with autopay and paperless billing. Even without autopay, it's just $50. Now, how's that for the fine print? No bull. That's the real deal. Switch to C Spire today at cspire.com/real deal. C Spire, customer inspired. Man, that sounds like summertime in Mississippi, doesn't it? You know what else just screams summertime in Mississippi? Country Pleasin' sausage from Country Meat Packers in Florence. Check me out. Jalapeno and cheddar. Just got it at Kroger in Tupelo where I live. On grocery store shelves throughout the Southeast. Cut it up, throw it in the frying pan. Put it on a bun. Get some andouille, make some gumbo. It is the best sausage you've ever put in your mouth. Country Pleasin' sausage, countrypleasin.com. It is made up of hand-picked hams, bacon, and pork loin. That's why it tastes so good. I even got this cool hat from them. Check them out. Go by the butcher shop there in Florence, or order it online, or look for it in grocery stores. Walk up in there and say, Country Pleasin', please.
A lot of people in the equipment world, things kind of go in trends, I guess, if you want to say it. So kind of the first big thing for 2020 that we look at when we start evaluating our business is going to be our turf equipment. That's kind of the first big push, because once everything, the water dries up and the grass starts growing, this is what everybody's looking to get. We carry the new Wright stand-up mower. Doesn't look like much, and it's dirty as all get out. But this thing is, and it costs just as much as zero turn. Not a cheap unit at all. I mean, if you go out there and look at that zero turn, this thing right here, I mean, it's got all your components from your big pumps to your commercial engine to your large steel deck. And these guys were the first ones to make the standard mower.
Hey, are you buying land or selling it? You need to let Matt Anderson with National Land Realty help you out. Matt Anderson Properties. Here's what Matt can do. If you're buying land, you can view the property without ever setting foot on it. They've got the 360-degree interactive drone touring. It's really cool. You got to check it out. And if you're selling property, Matt's going to get you consistent reports, comprehensive reports of who's looking, how many people looked at your listing. You need to let him help you. Matt Anderson Properties with National Land Realty. Call him, 601-408-5155. Okie dokie. Back on the show. Y'all call me on the Davini phone, 995-1059. Davini Equipment in Madison and in Jackson. Highway 51 Madison, Spring Ridge Road in Jackson. Your Kubota dealer. The oldest Kubota dealer in the U.S. It means they've been doing it better, longer than anyone else. It's a great product, but even better people that you get to deal with if you do business with Davini. Head on up there, tell Jonathan and those guys I sent you. All right. I'm going to hit the text line here. I've got a story for you that really is kind of bearing the lead. It is a big news story, I think, potentially for Mississippi State football. Since things are not normal with football, I think we all are approaching normal news. I hate to call it that. The normal news cycle a little differently. We're not paying as close attention and all that kind of stuff. It's just the way it is. But I want to make sure we get this in. And then I'm coming to your comments and your texts. According to Joel Coleman, Sports Illustrated, Mississippi State wide receiver Malik Heath was arrested yesterday in Winston County up there around Louisville. He was arrested by the Mississippi Highway Patrol. According to arrest records from the Winston-Choctaw County Regional Correctional Facility, he was booked at 4:30 p.m., 4:29 to be exact, yesterday, charged with driving under the influence, no driver's license, improper equipment, no insurance, and speeding more than 20 miles per hour over the limit. He was released from the facility at 8:30 last night, total bond of $3,000. When contacted, the Mississippi Highway Patrol provided no further details on the arrest. Mississippi State head football coach Mike Leach released the following statement on the arrest. We're aware of the situation. We're gathering more information from the proper authorities and don't have further comment at this time. He went on to say, Joel did in his story here at SI, that Heath is, in his words, expected to be one of Mississippi State's primary receiving targets in Leach's air raid offense in 2020. 6'3", 215-pounder from Jackson. Came to MSU by way of Colin Community College. 4-star JUCO recruit, part of the recent signing class. Played in 17 career games. Put it in perspective for you to what his opportunity is on State's offense. If we can consume these numbers right now through our ears without looking at them. I consume numbers really awfully. I'm bad enough when I can see them, much less just hearing them, so I'm going to do my best. Numbers are hard on the radio. Malik Heath, in 17 JUCO games, has, I think, one more reception or close to the same number of receptions in 17 career games that Osiris Mitchell at Mississippi State has in 35 career games. And oh, by the way, Osiris Mitchell is the leading returning receiver on State's whole wide receiver group. In terms of after high school, in a game, getting a ball thrown to you that you catch, Malik Heath's got more of those in 2 years and 17 games in JUCO than the leading guy at State does in 35 games in Starkville. Tremendous opportunity for him. The question now is, what is the discipline, and has this incident completely taken him out of the mix? I will tell you, I don't know the answer. Most of the time, new coaches go really hard on the first few offenders of like zero tolerance policy rules that they have on the team, like DUIs and arrests. And so I have no idea. I don't know what
a take on that.
Hit me.
I don't think that the schools should release one iota of information about what they do to him disciplinarian-wise.
Yeah.
It's none of the public's business.
Gotcha.
Handle that stuff in-house. If
Right.
he was not an athlete, it wouldn't even be a story.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, unfortunately, people make mistakes, and kids, especially 18 to 22, you know, and I know friends that have had kids that have gotten DUIs and stuff like that, and, you know, it's not something you want to go out broadcasting to everybody. Hey, my kid this, my kid that. No. And you handle it, your business, in your own household. That's just my take.
Yeah.
I'm tired of these kids being thrown under the bus because they make a mistake that, you know, 95% of their age group is going to make. And I'm not saying everybody's going to get a DUI. That's not what I'm saying at all. But
Some type of mistake.
Right. You know, and if we're going to use the old adage that in God's eyes a sin is a sin, you know, you can't rank them. Oh, this is worse than that, you know. Now, I know society has placed that on us through certain things that, you know, that we look as a breakable law versus something that might not be as harmful. But my point is just keep it inside.
Yeah.
We don't need to know what they do to him.
Well, I think that's true. I don't need to know. You know, as an interested fan, you know, I am curious, okay, if these games kick off at the end of September, is he going to have to, you know, are we not going to get to see him now? I guess is the thing. And if they handle it internally, I don't have to know. I don't need to know. I agree with you. It's none of my business. I'm just wondering, does this take him out of the mix in the first game, or is it the first 3 games, or is it half the season? Whatever they decide to do internally, if it's a suspension.
Sure.
And for players who have limited amount of time in which they're eligible anyway, and a guy who's already used 2 years of eligibility in JUCO, I mean, mistakes are crucial like this if it takes him off the field and keeps him from being able to play. Not to mention it could really hurt the team. But I agree with you on that.
I got a first cousin that's very close to him and taught him in elementary school and maintained that bond with him throughout his time at Callaway and then at Colin. And he's a good kid, man. He just made a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah. That's right. He can live through it. Hope you know, when it happens like that, you just hope you learn from it and, you know, eliminate that mistake. It's like in, you know, making a mistake in practice. Maybe not as critical, but you make a mistake. Your hope is that you eliminate that mistake and you don't make it again.
Learn from it and don't do it.
Yeah, learn from it and move on. All right, here we go. Let me back up here. This is going back to the beginning of the show. We got things started on the Country Pleasing text line. It's 885-ESPN. Ghost Pepper says, you made fun of me for saying Cardinal Nation, yet you just said Chiefs Kingdom. LOL. I did, because a kingdom could be large or small, and it's the official hashtag of the team. That's my excuse, Ghost Pepper. See, that's what I need. I need more of y'all to come in here and, like, check me on my opinions. 100 Grand said, Matt, he said, did I hear you say something about the Sonic Boom? I don't know if you might have missed it earlier in the week, 100 Grand, but somebody asked for Neck from JSU, but I actually played Coming to America. He said, man, now you're starting to have that niche of when we need to hear it. Meaning I just have a feeling for when you need to hear it. You just said, I just lost somebody, and we as a New Orleans background celebrate life once it's gone. Let's get it going. You want to hear it? This is it. So not Neck from JSU. I'm sorry to hear that, 100 Grand. Hang in there. JSU Coming to America. Anthony from Tupelo says Camp McCain is off the highway between Calhoun City and Grenada, about 10 miles outside of Grenada. That explains why I saw the sign yesterday. White Denzel says, in regards to classic games, he said it's not a game, but the drive right before halftime by State in 2014 against Auburn was crucial for that season. We scored to lead 28-13 at half instead of 21-13, and that's right. I mean, Auburn made it a little interesting. I mean, it was a closer game than a lot of people realized, but you're right. That drive right before half was big. Was that the touchdown by Dak going into the north end zone? They go empty, and he goes quarterback draw. He's in the backfield all by himself. Goes empty. He misleads the linebacker on purpose and then goes through the other hole and just untouched into the end zone. I think that was it. They did that a bunch that year in 2014 for sure. Bulldog Blitz on the Country Pleasing text says, think if Norwood played under a more balanced offense at MSU. He was the offense. Blitz says, I know Clay and got to hunt with Jarius a few times. Fantastic athlete, great human being. I got to go fishing with him one time. Mark Beeson, remember, he used to be with Wildlife Fisheries and Parks. He's over there in Clinton. A lot of y'all know Mark, great guy, friend of mine. We used to live together up here in Tupelo, but we knew each other in college before that. Yeah, and we were at a private lake over in Philadelphia. And we got to take Jarius fishing. That was awesome. You said Minshew seems to get more love, but Jarius is the player I'm most proud of as a Brandon alum. Wish I could have seen him in high school. Look, two guys from that era, the early 2000s, early to mid-2000s era, that were just born a little too early. Omar Connor and Jarius Norwood. Can you imagine Omar Connor as a spread option quarterback in the wide open spread offenses nowadays? Or Jarius as a back / slot guy? They're just born too early. That's all. Long way to go. Thanks for being here. We're going to have some fun coming up. Stick around.
Farm Bureau Insurance stands ready to provide financial relief to our communities in this time of crisis. This includes a one-time credit to all personal auto policyholders, a donation of $500,000 to the Mississippi Food Network, and additional payment options for those hit the hardest, all while continuing to service customer claims as well. But this is the time to go above and beyond. These are a few ways we're keeping the Farm Bureau promise. To learn more, talk to your agent or visit us online. Go with the home team.
Every farmer understands their farm can't thrive without some good partners like sun, soil, and rain. And farmers in North Mississippi also rely on another important partner, Mississippi Land Bank, because land and farm financing are Mississippi Land Bank's primary focus. We've grown alongside these farmers' crops for more than 100 years. We understand what a farmer needs, and we know the lay of the land in North Mississippi, and that's where I stand.
Bull. There's a lot of that out there in the wireless world. But C-Spire believes that you deserve a plan that is what it actually says it is. Here's the real deal. The best plan for 1 or 2 lines. Unlimited talk and text with 10 gigabytes of high-speed data. And here's the real deal. $45 per line with autopay and paperless billing. Even without autopay, it's just $50. Now, how's that for the fine print? No bull. That's the real deal. Switch to C-Spire today at cspire.com/real deal. C-Spire, customer inspired. Man, that sounds like summertime in Mississippi, doesn't it? You know what else just screams summertime in Mississippi? Country Pleasing sausage from Country Meat Packers in Florence. Check me out. Jalapeno and cheddar. Just got it at Kroger in Tupelo where I live. On grocery store shelves throughout the Southeast. Cut it up, throw it in the frying pan, put it on a bun. Get some andouille, make some gumbo. It is the best sausage you've ever put in your mouth. Country Pleasing Sausage, countrypleasing.com. It is made up of hand-picked hams, bacon, and pork loin. That's why it tastes so good. I even got this cool hat from them. Check them out. Go by the butcher shop there in Florence, or order it online, or look for it in grocery stores. Walk up in there and say, Country Pleasing, please.
A lot of people in the equipment world, things kind of go in trends, I guess, if you want to say it. So kind of the first big thing for 2020 that we look at when we start evaluating our business is going to be our turf equipment. That's kind of the first big push, because once the water dries up and the grass starts growing, this is what everybody's looking to get. We carry the new Wright stand-up mower. Doesn't look like much, and it's dirty as all get out. But this thing is, and it costs just as much as zero turn. Not a cheap unit at all. I mean, if you go out there and look at that zero turn, this thing right here, I mean, it's got all your components from your big pumps to your commercial engine to your large steel deck. And these guys were the first ones to make the standard mower.
Hey, are you buying land or selling it? You need to let Matt Anderson with National Land Realty help you out. Matt Anderson Properties. Here's what Matt can do. If you're buying land, you can view the property without ever setting foot on it. They've got the 360-degree interactive drone touring. It's really cool. You got to check it out. And if you're selling property, Matt's going to get you consistent reports, comprehensive reports of who's looking, how many people looked at your listing. You need to let him help you. Matt Anderson. All right, back. Thomas on Facebook watching the live stream says Louisville is a speed trap. Everybody knows that. Will on the YouTube live stream says, Matt, as a former quarterback, you know all about learning an offensive system. How long do you think Leach needs to install the air raid, and how long before the offense really gets it in? I will tell you this, Will, of all the questions people have asked since Mike Leach was hired, but especially since the spring got canceled because of COVID, of all the questions, I've done a lot of radio interviews and different stuff, and shows in different states that cover the SEC, and it without question, the number one question is the one you just asked. How fast can they pick up that new offense? They missed spring, new quarterback coming in. And the way I've answered it every time is, past the history, the record of somebody can only lead to so much. I mean, they have to go out and do it. We understand that. But you look at past examples, every school he's been to, the players say they pick it up really fast. It's not a thing where the playbook is that thick. It's more like about that thick. And it's about learning those plays and responsibilities. And then the coaches start moving them all over the place in terms of formations. But they will do the entire installation process, they say, is done within 2 weeks. Well, you still got to go out and make it work against a live opponent and execute the plays. But everything that former players who played in that system tell you is that it's not hard to pick it up in a short amount of time. And, that's the hope if you're a State fan. So we just kind of have to see. We will just have to see. Unnamed texter on the Country Pleasing text line. A DUI from a few beers one night is one thing, JB, but no license or insurance. That's 3 mistakes. It's one big fat mistake. Look, and
hey, I agree. I mean, those license and insurance, but there's always extenuating circumstances. Doesn't give them a pass, but yeah, it is 3 mistakes.
That's right. Nobody gets a pass, but it also, I don't care what it is, especially with a person that young. You can learn from anything. And that's the job, is to whatever it is, no matter how bad it is. It's like, my dad used to tell me growing up, always remember this, if you're going to be stupid, you'd better be tough. Okay? You don't really have an option.
Yeah.
You know, so you get tired of putting knots on your head. Let's be a little smarter. You know, we're all kind of in the same boat in that
My
regard.
dad told me I wasn't smart enough to be bad.
You ain't smart enough, so be good. That's good. Dad, you also used to say, you know, when you tell lies, you got to remember every single solitary little thing you said, and you're not going to be able to remember everything you said. So just tell the truth all the time. Then you don't have to remember it because it's just the truth. All right, Davini Equipment phone line. Put your arms out, start slapping them together like this. That's the Gator Chomp. They do it at Vicksburg High School, too, by the way. I don't know if y'all know that those are Gators in Vicksburg. But these are the other kind of Gators in Gainesville. Gator Greg. What's up, Greg?
Mr. Wyatt, it's so great to hear your voice. You and JB do an excellent job. Mr. Wyatt, I wonder how things going to impact for you and Neil during the games. Are y'all going to have to distance in the booth? You're going to have to put a glass up in between you guys when you're calling a game this year? I mean, it's how are you going to have your access to the players this year? It's just, you know, it's going to be kind of different dynamic for you.
Listen, it is up in the air. We don't know. Neil and I, you know, Neil was on last Friday. We were down in Starkville doing the show, and he's unsure. I'm unsure. The one thing I'm certain of is this, Greg. This could be a season in which there are more people than ever tuning in to the radio broadcast.
Yes, sir.
We have already seen an uptick in the last few years of, you know, just I'm talking about an incremental uptick in the number of people who are tuning into our radio broadcast and syncing it up with their television. That has really been happening a lot. And I think this year, that's just it's going to double the number of people who are doing that kind of thing because nobody's going to be in the stands. That we know. So radio is going to be important, but I don't know what they're going to do. We don't know if they're going to send radio crews to road games. I mean, but for all we know, they could put us down in front of a television and put a headset on us, you know, at home and say, hey, do it. We're going to put it on the radio and we'll pump in the crowd noise. There's just none of that is certain. And I do know that if we are in the booth together, they will have us, you know, sitting apart. And if the booth isn't big enough, they'll have some type of partition between us. But they hadn't done it yet is what I understand.
Any truth, maybe I heard a little bit of a rumor you hear when the schedule's going to be announced. Got a little bit of a information that I thought maybe possible it might be next Friday. People like to do the little news dump on Friday.
Okay.
Be kind of curious to see. I think you're going to open up. I have a feeling, Mr. Wyatt, I think you're going to open up with the Hogs.
Okay.
I don't know, or the East opponent, maybe Vanderbilt. But I think the Hogs. And then let me see what the other thing I want to ask you, Mr. Wyatt. You do an excellent job. I go back, listen to the show on the archives. Really got me through stuff. Mr. Wyatt, you talking about the implementation of the offense and the hitting. What do you kind of see? Or we're going to try to? I know we have to test these kids and these athletes. Are we gonna try to limit the contact?
No.
You know, you have to have contact before we get ready to play.
Yeah.
You know, what do you think? How they're going to do that? But you and JB do an excellent job. We love listening to you. Good luck to all the Bulldogs, the Gators, everybody in the SEC, and Justin Fields. I told him if he can't come to Starkville, we'll take him in Gainesville. Appreciate you.
Gator Greg's out. Thanks for the call, Greg. Look, I don't think that they can afford to limit contact in practice. I mean, you know, just minimally at best. But the thing is, Greg, over the last 5 years or so, the NCAA has minimized the contact in practice anyway. They have outlawed 2-a-day practices. They have outlawed having full contact practices on back-to-back days. It now has to have a day in between. If you go full pads, full contact in practice on Monday, you can't do it on Tuesday. You got to do it Wednesday. You know, so they've really limited all the contact you have anyway. I haven't heard anybody say that they're looking to minimize the contact or limit the contact with players in practice. But I don't know that they just got their practice schedules, right? And today is the 13th. What are we looking at? The 17th is when they told them they can start full-on practice, so Monday. And Greg's saying if what he's hearing is correct, then the SEC not releasing the full-on schedule with dates and times and locations tomorrow, but next Friday, so a week from tomorrow, which would be the 21st, which would actually be 5 weeks ahead of the first game or the first game weekend for them, based on the schedule we have and all the information. So, it's not this week, but next.
A little breaking news, Matt, as you talk about conferences and schedules. A friend of mine, coach in the area, sent me a text that the Southland Conference will cancel all sports.
Yeah. The
announcement will come later today. Said that Southeastern Louisiana has already canceled their opener with Tulane.
Okay.
So it looks as the ranks of the smaller conferences continue to fall.
And I think the smaller ones, it's just about the stark reality there that, JB, they just cannot afford what it's going to take to put their athletes through the kind of testing you'd have to put them through.
Right.
And frankly, the SEC can afford it, and then some. The NFL can afford it. It goes back to the question we got from the man who called earlier in the week from down in Baton Rouge, who thought, why doesn't the NFL step up and foot the bill for all these college leagues and conferences to help them afford the constant testing? I think, again, and the number I saw was over $500,000 for one school. Like State, it's like $600,000. Ole Miss, $600,000. It's going to cost them this fall just for the testing part of it for their football team. So,
that's a chunk of change.
Well, it is.
I mean, you just think about not only can they not afford the testing, but they're losing revenue because they can't play those games that they were getting, $2 or $3 million for going to get your tail whipped.
Yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. Hey, and real quick, coming up in hour 2. So we're going to start hour 2 with going back, and we're going to relive, in a certain way, a classic game. I just happened to watch it one morning. I was working out. I popped up YouTube, and there it was, and I clicked on it, I thought, and then the idea kind of came together. So we're going to do that. We're going to have the countdown of 100 teams in 100 days, but we're going to circle back and talk about an SEC team that we barely touched on early in the countdown, but now there's a greater need to go back and hit this team again. And so that's coming up in the countdown of 100 teams in hour 2 also. Plenty more texts. A bunch of y'all got them in. J-Rock and QB1 and Anthony. I'll get to those and your comments on Facebook as well. I'm Matt in the Farm Bureau studio. Farm Bureau, go! With the home team. Stick around.
Farm Bureau Insurance stands ready to provide financial relief to our communities in this time of crisis. This includes a one-time credit to all personal auto policyholders, a donation of $500,000 to the Mississippi Food Network, and additional payment options for those hit the hardest, all while continuing to service customer claims as well. But this is the time to go above and beyond. These are a few ways we're keeping the Farm Bureau promise. To learn more, talk to your agent or visit us online. Go with the home team.
Every farmer understands their farm can't thrive without some good partners like sun, soil, and rain. And farmers in North Mississippi also rely on another important partner, Mississippi Land Bank, because land and farm financing are Mississippi Land Bank's primary focus. We've grown alongside these farmers' crops for more than 100 years. We understand what a farmer needs, and we know the lay of the land in North Mississippi, and that's where I stand.
Bull. There's a lot of that out there in the wireless world. But C Spire believes that you deserve a plan that is what it actually says it is. Here's the real deal. the best plan for 1 or 2 lines. Unlimited talk and text with 10 gigabytes of high-speed data. And here's the real deal. $45 per line with auto pay and paperless billing. Even without auto pay, it's just $50. Now, how's that for the fine print? No bull. That's the real deal. Switch to C Spire today at cspire.com/real deal. C Spire, customer inspired. Man, that sounds like summertime in Mississippi, doesn't it? You know what else just screams summertime in Mississippi? Country Pleasin' sausage from Country Meat Packers in Florence. Check me out. Jalapeno and cheddar. Just got it at Kroger in Tupelo where I live. On grocery store shelves throughout the Southeast. Cut it up, throw it in the frying pan. Put it on a bun. Get some andouille, make some gumbo. It is the best sausage you've ever put in your mouth. Country Pleasin' sausage, countrypleasin.com. It is made up of hand-picked hams, bacon, and pork loin. That's why it tastes so good. I even got this cool hat from them. Check them out. Go by the butcher shop there in Florence, or order it online, or look for it in grocery stores. Walk up in there and say, Country Pleasin', please.
A lot of people in the equipment world, you know, things kind of go in trends, I guess, if you want to say it. So kind of the first big thing for 2020 that we look at when we start evaluating our business is going to be our turf equipment. That's kind of the first big push, because once everything, the water dries up and the grass starts growing, this is what everybody's looking to get. We carry the new Wright stand-up mower. Doesn't look like much, and it's dirty as all get out. But this thing is, and it costs just as much as zero turn. Not a cheap unit at all. I mean, if you go out there and look at that zero turn, this thing right here, I mean, it's got all your components from your big pumps to your commercial engine to your large steel deck. And these guys were the first ones to make the standard mower.
Hey, are you buying land or selling it? You need to let Matt Anderson with National Land Realty help you out. Matt Anderson Properties. Here's what Matt can do. If you're buying land, you can view the property without ever setting foot on it. They've got the 360-degree interactive drone touring. It's really cool. You got to check it out. And if you're selling property, Matt's going to get you consistent reports, comprehensive reports of who's looking, how many people looked at your listing. You need to let him help you. Matt Anderson Properties with National Land Realty. Call him, 601-408-5155. Hey, if you listen to the show, you know that the new third hour of the Matt Wyatt Show is brought to you by Overstreet Properties in Starkville. Here's what you need to know. If you're looking for a weekend home or condo, full-time residence, investment property, maybe just an apartment to lease, you got a student going to school at State, call Kane Overstreet at Overstreet Properties. In Starkville, it's 323-8618, or look them up online, overstreetproperties.com.
Online at thezone1059.com and on your radio at ESPN 105.9 The Zone.
All right, let's go. Hour number 2 of the show just starting. Thanks for tuning in, however you're listening, wherever you're listening from. On what? Radio, phone, whatever. Thanks for tuning in. So text away, call me on the Davini phone. You can type it in there, a comment, question, if you're watching the live stream right now on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, and we'll get it here on the show. Twitter. Got a bunch of tweets here today. I tweeted the question earlier. If, hypothetical, what if the 14 SEC presidents were to vote on proceeding with football or not? How would that vote go? Would it be 14-0? Would it be 7-7? You got 14 presidents in the SEC, and if they all voted on whether or not to proceed with football, how would they vote?
So what if they all did vote, and they did come back 7-7?
Yeah.
Who would be your choice? Or who do you think the choice would be to cast that deciding vote?
Yeah, who's the tiebreaker? You know, somebody responded to that because I asked that question, who would be the tiebreaker? And you know, a couple people very logically just go, well, that would be Greg Sankey. You know, the commissioner of the league would then have to break the tie. But is that true? A few people joked and said it'd be Nick Saban. Absolutely, it'd be Nick Saban be the tiebreaker. And then I thought to myself, well, are we joking? Most people have responded to that on Twitter and said they think it would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 13-1, 12-2, something like that. Somebody said 12-2, Vandy for sure, Missouri possibly. Would they? That's the thing. You know, I don't know that anybody.
What about A&M?
Yeah, what about A&M? I don't know that anybody has responded that they thought it would be a unanimous 14-0 vote if the presidents voted in the SEC. And so I've seen a couple of 11-3 and 12-2s, and I'm thinking, okay, who are they? You know, who are the ones that you're thinking would vote no, and why would they vote that way? We know who we have here. These are the presidents in the SEC. Okay. At State and Ole Miss, we know we got Mark Keenum at State. You have Glenn Boyce at Ole Miss. At Alabama, it's Stuart R. Bell. At Auburn, it's Jay Gouge, and I think he's like in his second stint because they brought him back in because the guy they did have didn't really work out too well and then sued him. You know. Arkansas, it's a guy named Donald Bobbitt. LSU president is Thomas Galligan. Texas A&M president, Michael K. Young. Florida's president's name is Ken Fuchs. Tennessee is a woman named Dondi Plowman. And I hope I'm saying Dondi right, Plowman, but I know that's how it's spelled. Georgia's president is Jerry Moorhead. Vanderbilt, Nicholas Zeppos.
Isn't Vanderbilt a private school?
Yeah, they are.
So my question would be, what if it didn't really come down to what the governor, to what the presidents thought of those institutions, but more of what the governor,
right?
Because it all falls under the institution of higher learning and whatever other kind of committee there are in other states. So would the governor be the one making the call? Well,
and some people believe that. Danny just commented with that on YouTube, and he said what the governors want matters more than what the presidents or the ADs of the universities want, correct? You know, Coach Sherrill actually posted that on Facebook a few days ago. He said, y'all need to understand it's the governors of these states that are making these decisions. Well, if that's the case, I need to make a new list. Then who are the governors in these states, all right? Because, you know, think about, well, let's just use a couple of examples. We know the statement that came from Tate Reeves here in the state of Mississippi 2 days ago. The first line in his statement, it goes all over social media. I think it was Tuesday afternoon. College football is essential. It was like seconds, within minutes or seconds after the news came out officially of the Big Ten canceling their season. Governor Tate Reeves, Mississippi, college football is essential. Okay. Look at Georgia. Georgia's full speed ahead, going to play high school football. And oh, by the way, they've got an NFL team over there too. Is the governor of Georgia going to say, no, we need to vote against playing college football?
No, he was one of the first ones that reopened the state.
Right.
Back in the early, before July the 4th weekend.
Right. So Georgia's
playing.
Yeah. Well, and Georgia's playing Alabama. Alabama, full speed ahead. High school football on Friday nights. They're practicing. They don't have any pro teams, but they kind of do because they've got Alabama and Auburn. By the way, did y'all realize that Auburn was a better football team than Alabama last year? Anybody realize that? I could prove it. Mm-hmm. And Alabama had a first-round quarterback, although he's banged up. But Auburn was a better football team than Alabama last year. I could prove it. If I were on radio in Alabama, JB, that's all I'd have to say. And for 3 hours, boom.
The phone is like an atomic bomb.
Here we go. That's right. Daniel on YouTube is telling me that Florida's president's last name is pronounced Fox. Is it? I mean, it's spelled F-U-C-H-S. I mean, you know, look, if you're going to spell it that way and it's pronounced like Fox, like the little animal running around the yard, then more power to them. But it's not spelled that way. Yeah, so, I mean, Alabama's going to play. If the governor's making a decision, you know how they're going to vote in Alabama. And that's 2 SEC schools in Alabama. We know how 2 SEC schools in Mississippi would vote. Louisiana. Okay? So just look at it. Again, hypothetically, if we're saying there's eventually going to be a vote where they have to vote to go forward or not, and if we're going to assume that the major decision makers in these SEC footprint states are the governors and the governments in those states and not necessarily just the presidents at the schools, then what SEC states are going to vote no to football? It ain't Tennessee. Everybody's going, well, Vanderbilt's president would vote against it. So what? They got Tennessee in the state of Mississippi. Who's their governor? They're voting to go unless there's some breakout disaster with this virus. So, all of them. I mean, you can't. Florida, they're going to do it. South Carolina, they're all going to do it. So that, you know, there's just, again, where we are right now, as of middle of the day on Thursday, August the 13th, is between now and the end of September, if there's not some sort of major negative turn in the lifespan of this virus, like huge outbreaks on campuses, sending thousands of kids home and all that, if that doesn't happen, none of these states are going to have governors who push to not play. Therefore, the presidents of these schools and the ADs are going to play. I think that's what we're looking at. I've seen really smart people, media people primarily, getting on social media and saying, it's just a matter of time. I'm predicting that it's just a matter of time before these other leagues cancel also. I don't buy that. Bob Bowlesby, the commissioner of the Big 12, they put a schedule out yesterday. We're still waiting on the SEC schedule, but Bowlesby and those guys, they put a schedule out, and he did some interviews yesterday. He said, yeah, we're good. Day by day, things could change, but right now we're good to go, so I put a schedule out there. We're going to play. We're going to play football. Lots of questions about getting a champion. I saw this earlier, and I don't want to skip over it because it, you know, could potentially be significant. Brian Fisher, this is an hour ago. Brian Fisher covers college sports for CBS and Yahoo, and he tweeted, as of noon Eastern time today, all 8 Division I NCAA fall championship sports have crossed the 50% cancellation mark, meaning there will be no NCAA championships this fall. The D1 Council decision next week is to either cancel outright or postpone to the spring. You know, it's misleading because he's saying fall championships, but is he saying fall sports? You know, football is a fall sport. but you don't have your championship until well on into the spring semester. And it's a college football playoff. So I don't know that, he's referencing football or what. Dabo Swinney, Clemson, believes you can still do it even though the other conferences aren't playing, and that it won't be watered down. It'll be a legit championship.
It is what it is. Pick the 4 best teams and go play. And, we've been one of those 4 for 5 years in a row. So, in my opinion, it doesn't change anything for us. We're just trying to be the best Clemson we can be. And whoever you play every week, you try to win that game and you try to keep moving forward. And you don't have any control over that stuff. So I don't, and I certainly don't judge them in any way. Everybody's got to make decisions that they feel is best. And they feel like that's what is best for them, and so be it.
That's Dabo.
Was he have a staple gun in the background?
It sounded like somebody. What are they doing? Putting up a screen porch?
They were social distancing.
Somebody's shooting him with a nail gun while he's trying to do an interview. That's cruel. That's what it sounded like. Whack! Whack! Maybe he was at practice and that was the sound of, hitting going on, or somebody hitting the sled behind him. Let's hit the phone line.
The lack of revenue. You got a caller, pal.
All right, hit the phone line. It's Fletch on the Davini Equipment phone. What's up, Fletch?
Hey, I think the sound you heard behind Dabo was the printing press printing out the money they owe him.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
Hey, I've got a little bit of a question and maybe a comment. So, if you said Coach Sherrill told you that the governors are making the decision?
He put that on Facebook. Several days ago, he posted. We're friends on Facebook, and he posted. He said some people need to realize that it's not the presidents and the ADs that are making all these decisions. It's governors of these states that are going to decide whether they ought to be playing football or not.
Yeah, and certainly he's the head man of the state, and those guys essentially report to him. Mm-hmm. They make more than him, and you could say in certain situations they have more power than him.
Yeah.
And what I'm curious is back when I was an athletic trainer, there was probably a written rule, and certainly unwritten, is a coach could never overrule a physician or an athletic trainer as to whether a player could play.
Right.
So if we said no go, the coach has no comment.
Mm-hmm.
If we say he's physically able to play, and the coach says, let's rest him, then so be it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what Coach Sherrill may be saying is, and I think for obvious political reasons, Tate Reeves and whomever else would say, yes, let him play. Because if he said otherwise, he may be shipped out sooner versus later.
Uh-huh.
And so if he says, let him play, and for whatever reason, Boyce or Keith Carter or Kiffin, for an Ole Miss example, says we can't do this, then the heat's off the governor, and they may have to respect that medical, hopefully based decision.
Mm-hmm.
So the governor may be thumbs up or thumbs down, but if it was a thumbs up, I think the school still could have an individual autonomy.
It's interesting you say that. I was reading here, and I pulled it back up, what Bowlesby, the commissioner of the Big 12, he's doing an interview yesterday. They put their schedule out. They're going to go forward with football. But then they got into the whole medical part of it, Fletch. And there was a quote in there. He said, well, the biggest argument for playing is that nobody has told us that it's poorly advised to go forward and do what we're doing. If we get to the place where our doctors and scientists say, you know what, you guys got 2 wheels off the tracks and you're headed for a train wreck, we will pivot that day. That's a quote from the Big 12 commissioner on the same day that they said we're going to go forward and here's our schedule. So I think you're right in that the thing that could be the fly in anybody's let's have a season ointment is if the doctor says, hey, can't do it. And right now they're going on doctor's advice that tells them that they can do it, I guess.
Yeah. And the doctors would probably be tight-lipped until absolutely necessary to say it. And with the Duke physician the other day saying something in support of playing, I think they're going to just say we're going forward, because you could always cut it off the day before, the week before, whatever, rather than shut it down 6-8 weeks early. And Matt, since JB referenced Jake and pronunciation last time I called, congratulations on not only using double entendre, but saying it correctly. I got a feeling use and enunciation from Jacob would be a challenge.
Yeah, I'm not sure I could spell it, but I can say it, and I kind of know what it means. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if I can spell it or not. Appreciate it, Fletch. Thanks for the call. Yeah, good old Jake. Look, I don't know what they're going to do. I do agree that it's going to be a medical decision ultimately, one way or the other, and they're going to go on that. But I keep looking at it, and I keep in just my pragmatic brain looks at it and goes, you can't prove in any way that they are in more danger in the team facility and on the field and in that environment where they're taken care of. You can't prove that they're in more danger there than they are anywhere else. And you really can't prove where somebody got it. Can you? I mean, we can't. I mean, unless somebody has been in a bubble for 2 solid weeks and they get it. They didn't have it, now they have it. It means they got it in there. But otherwise, you can't prove it. Matt on the Davini Equipment phone line. What's up, Matt?
Hey, how's it going?
Just right. Thanks for calling.
Hey, quick question. Have any of you guys heard of any the process or what they're going to do if any of the teams do test positive for corona? Any kind of procedures that you've heard of? Haven't seen anything online. I know there's been some college football teams that have, such as Louisiana Tech, but just curious what your guys' thoughts on that is.
I haven't seen. I mean, I'm just under the assumption that it's like, okay, for instance, in the state of Mississippi, Matt, didn't the chief medical guy for the governor last week put this thing out there that says this is a state mandate? If you test positive, if you have this virus, you must isolate for, 14 days? And so if that's a state thing, then if it's state or Ole Miss and the state government says you got to isolate for 14 days, then if that kid gets it, he's got to isolate for 14 days. Now, the conventional thought here, it's like all these high school students who are at home and they are being quarantined, but they don't have the virus. It's just they're quarantined because they were in a classroom with somebody who did have it or did test positive. Do they also have to quarantine for 14 days? That I don't know. But other than that, I don't even have an answer because I don't really know.
All right. I'm just curious whether or not they had like a 14 days. They put them in a quarantine room where they don't really do anything to them, just kind of isolate them, or they just send them home or quarantine, or just curious. But you sound like you, like me, you don't really know.
Yeah, I don't really know. I guess I should, but I'll tell you this much. When I was 19, 20 years old, I don't care what it is. Just put me out to pasture somewhere. I'll just go live out in the woods for 14 days and deal with that better than being locked in some room somewhere and can't leave. That would be awful.
Right.
That'd be awful.
I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. I appreciate the call. Let me call in and go Eagles.
Yeah, I appreciate the call, Matt. Thank you. Call me anytime. Southern Miss versus South Alabama, Thursday night, September 3rd, until further notice. By the way, Troy scheduled a ball game at BYU for Saturday, September the 26th in Provo, Utah. They did a home and home. BYU is going to come back to Troy, Alabama in 2026.
And they got that out before the SEC schedule came out.
Yeah.
Which amazes me, looking at the Big 12 schedule when they released it yesterday morning. It didn't take them very long, did it?
Boy, it didn't take them long. No.
What's happening with the folks over in Birmingham with schedule-wise?
They're waiting on purpose.
You think?
Absolutely.
I think you throw it out there. Get the schedule out there. Let people know you're serious about it. And then if you cancel, you cancel. But at least you did, your jurisprudence and got the schedule together.
And I mean, whether we agree with it or not, I'm convinced, because there's no way that they can't figure it out. They're the SEC. They can figure it out. Whatever their delay is, whatever their reasoning is, I believe it's intentional, and we can disagree with it all we want to. But that's what I believe. Brian on the Country Pleasing text line says, "Hey Matt, any news about Sam Williams at Ole Miss? Got in trouble. What's he charged with? Was it like sexual battery or something like that at Ole Miss? No update on it. They've got to let it play out. And the last we heard was he's removed and cut off from any team involvement, any team activities until this whole thing plays out for him." Bulldog Blitz thinks 13 of the 14 SEC schools would vote to go forward with football. Missouri would vote not to go forward, he thinks, because they're liberal. That's according to Bulldog Blitz. And Jackson Mailman has a good point. We're talking about the governor and the Alabama and the president of the school. Jackson says, face it, Alabama's president is Nick Saban until he leaves. He's the decision maker. He is absolutely the decision maker. All right, next, we're going to flash back to a classic game. And I'm going to tell you why it's underrated and people need to appreciate it a little more. Next, right here on the show. Stick around.
Farm Bureau Insurance stands ready to provide financial relief to our communities in this time of crisis. This includes a one-time credit to all personal auto policyholders, a donation of $500,000 to the Mississippi Food Network, and additional payment options for those hit the hardest, all while continuing to service customer claims as well. But this is the time to go above and beyond. These are a few ways we're keeping the Farm Bureau promise. To learn more, talk to your agent or visit us online. Go with the home team.
Every farmer understands their farm can't thrive without some good partners like sun, soil, and rain. And farmers in North Mississippi also rely on another important partner, Mississippi Land Bank, because land and farm financing are Mississippi Land Bank's primary focus. We've grown alongside these farmers' crops for more than 100 years. We understand what a farmer needs, and we know the lay of the land in North Mississippi, and that's where I stand.
Bull. There's a lot of that out there in the wireless world. But C-Spire believes that you deserve a plan that is what it actually says it is. Here's the real deal. The best plan for 1 or 2 lines. Unlimited talk and text with 10 gigabytes of high-speed data. And here's the real deal. $45 per line with autopay and paperless billing. Even without autopay, it's just $50. Now, how's that for the fine print? No bull. That's the real deal. Switch to C-Spire today at cspire.com/real deal. C-Spire, customer inspired. Man, that sounds like summertime in Mississippi, doesn't it? You know what else just screams summertime in Mississippi? Country Pleasing sausage from Country Meat Packers in Florence. Check me out. Jalapeno and cheddar. Just got it at Kroger in Tupelo where I live. On grocery store shelves throughout the Southeast. Cut it up, throw it in the frying pan. Put it on a bun. Get some andouille, make some gumbo. It is the best sausage you've ever put in your mouth. Country Pleasing sausage, countrypleasing.com. It is made up of hand-picked hams, bacon, and pork loin. That's why it tastes so good. I even got this cool hat from it. Check them out. Go by the butcher shop there in Florence, or order it online, or look for it in grocery stores. Walk up in there and say, Country Pleasing, please.
A lot of people in the equipment world, things kind of go in trends, I guess, if you want to say it. So kind of the first big thing for 2020 that we look at when we start evaluating our business is going to be our turf equipment. That's kind of the first big push, because once everything, the water dries up and the grass starts growing, this is what everybody's looking to get. We carry the new Wright stand-up mower. Doesn't look like much and it's dirty as all get out. But this thing is, and it costs just as much as zero turn. Not a cheap unit at all. I mean, if you go out there and look at that zero turn, this thing right here, I mean, it's got all your components from your big pumps to your commercial engine to your large steel deck. And these guys were the first ones to make the standard mower.
Hey, are you buying land or selling? You need to
land on your radio at ESPN 105.9 The Zone.
Phyllis on the YouTube live stream right now says, I believe Mississippi State has arrangements to quarantine dorm students testing positive. I would think that would extend to the football team. So you quarantine them, and I guess that's what? Quarantine is 14 days. Becky sent me a long deal here on the Facebook live stream. It looks like it's from Mississippi State. For instance, MSU guidelines for students for on-campus quarantine. If the residential student cannot return home, the following procedures. Student will be permitted to return briefly to residence hall or fraternity housing to pick up personal items while wearing protective gear. They will then immediately check into a quarantine facility. Student will be allowed to drive to and park at quarantine facility. If student doesn't have vehicle, transportation will be provided. Take them to the quarantine facility. A representative from Student Affairs will greet them upon arrival, ensure they have everything they need. Students in isolation will be provided with extensive instruction regarding, on-call. MSU Dining will provide meals. Food can additionally be delivered. The Student Health Center provide on-call response to people in isolation. But I don't see anything in terms of length. If there are concerns regarding the roommate of a student waiting on test results, MSU will provide accommodations. The cost will be $70 per night per student. This is the amount MSU is being charged by its quarantine facilities. With meals, if the student has a meal plan, MSU will use his or her block meals for meals MSU Dining delivers. But I still don't see anything just in terms of the length of time. I guess it's 14 days until I see otherwise.
The wedding that I officiated this past weekend, one of the groomsmen was a baseball coach at Mississippi College, and I was asking him about how they're handling students coming in, and they're being tested in the Coliseum. Yeah. And if they test positive, they have two choices, very similar to what MSU's is, in that they can either go home or they can go to a quarantine room, and they stay there for 14 days, and they do all their classes online.
Will, who's watching on YouTube, says State booked 2 hotels in Starkville to serve as quarantine facilities for on-campus housed students. Okay, got it. And I guess obviously it's different if you're an off-campus deal. You're off-campus, just stay there. Okay, got it. Anthony from Tupelo, Country Pleasing text line, says Vandy wouldn't be voted on by the governor because it's a private school. Missouri a private school? I don't know about that. I don't know about Missouri. I don't think so.
No, Missouri's the land-grant institution.
Yeah, University of Missouri. Somebody, it's an unnamed text. Man, I'm happy as all get out. Out here in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico, my company has opened up the bandwidth a little more so we can listen to internet radio, love the show, hail state, and play ball. Whoever you are, high five to you and your company for opening up the bandwidth. Jason says just do a BCS type of thing for the championship. Yeah, get 2 teams on a algorithm, a formula. Sure, it'll be fine. We'll take what we can get now. No complaints. Patrick says if the governors make the call on whether to play or not, how come the high schools in majority of the Big Ten states are a go for the fall? says, I think someone misinformed Coach. The real Eric says, Matt, really, why can't he accept he's now taking a back seat? Who are you talking about, Eric? Kelsey? Kelsey and the Chiefs have a deal. Here's why. Thanks to my man JB, who forwarded me Jeremy Fowler's tweet from ESPN. The money's not finalized, but they're expecting to come in just under Kittle's $15 million a year for Travis Kelce and the Chiefs. But listen, Eric, Kelce is in a different situation. He turns 31 in October. He's older. Third contract. Keeping the band together in Kansas City is a factor. Let me ask you this, Eric. Would anybody in their right mind take a little less money to catch passes from Patrick Mahomes versus a little more money to catch them from Jimmy G? You and I and Travis Kelce and George Kittle know the answer to that, whether they'll say it or not. Flowtown Ghost says, do they play rival game first to get it in case the year is canceled? I hope they do. I don't think they are, but I hope they do. Pat, we already played a little Sonic Boom earlier. Yeah, we did. But I'll give you a little college football in your speakers right now because that's what I want to talk about with you right now. Ha! Hey, Andrew has a good point. He says, Jimmy Garoppolo throws? He's not that bad. We're just picking on him. All right, flashback. We're going to do this every now and then. Flashback with you. College football flashback. To the Southeastern Conference on CBS 2014. Let's go back to 2014, shall we? If you remember, on October the 25th, 2014, earlier that week, in late October, Mississippi State had been named the number one team in the country in the first ever college football playoff rankings. State had been ranked number one, and their first task was to go on the road to Kentucky. Now, Kentucky was unranked, but they weren't bad, were they? They were not bad. But they were unranked. They were a 5-win team at that point. I think 5-2 going into that ball game, late October. It was packed out. Here comes Vernon Gary and the CBS crew to highlight the number one team playing at Kentucky. State was ripe for an upset. Would you say that? Would you say they were ripe for an upset? State went out there and won that ball game. We all know that. We go back to that. They won that ball game. How important was it for that State team and for the program and for everything that you've experienced since then? How important was it to win that game after being ranked number one? It was very, very, very important. Dak Prescott had some highlight plays, and all the world was talking about Dak Prescott, and rightfully so. But if you'll remember, it was actually Josh Robinson who had two key plays in that game that you may have forgotten about. Now, one was a third quarter run where he broke 7 tackles.
Now, he had yardage. They should spot this. Oh, no, he's still up. Oh, my gracious.
Upward progress was called and say, let's not get the guy hurt. But he keeps running. And 2 or 3 times, you think the play's over. I think he broke 6 or 7 tackles on that play.
Begin
1,
with this run.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7.
They were watching the replay, and Gary Danielson was counting the missed tackles. Okay, that was third quarter. But y'all listen. You remember State goes, they beat Kentucky, they remain number one. That ball game was 31-24 going into the fourth quarter. It was a 7-point high-scoring game. State couldn't stop them. State wasn't playing great. Okay, a 7-point game on the road going in the fourth quarter, number one team, ripe for the upset. One-score game going to the fourth quarter. State has a drive going. They get the ball to start their drive there in the fourth quarter. They ran 3 plays. And right at the start of the fourth quarter, on the third play, it was 3rd and 1, way back on their own end of the field, and they gave the ball to Josh Robinson on 3rd and 1.
They give it to Robinson. He breaks the tackle. Foot race at the 30. How about the cutback? Josh Robinson angles for the touchdown.
73-yard touchdown run for Josh Robinson. If you want to see that play, I put it on my Twitter feed. I was watching that game on YouTube the other day. I was working out in the morning, and I thought, I got to bring this up. And it led to this idea. We need to go back every day and kind of relive some classic games. But here's the thing. When you think for State about the 2014 season, what do you think about? Dak. You think about the Auburn game. You think about the LSU game. You think about A&M. But nobody remembers very well the plays that Josh Robinson made in a game where they had just been ranked number 1, where the entire world going into the fourth quarter thought State's fixing to get beat. On the road, they're only up 31-24. Their defense can't stop Kentucky. By the way, State goes up 38-24 because of that 73-yard run by Josh Robinson. They needed it. Patrick Towles led Kentucky right back down the field, made it 38-31. Later, we know, onside kick recovered by Christian Holmes, runs it in. It made it 45-31, but the game was back and forth within a touchdown 2-3 different times in the second half. And if Robinson doesn't make some of those runs, they lose the ball game. Huge moment in that season and in his career, really. And then for that team. Go back and watch that game. It was a heck of a ball game back and forth. But Josh Robinson was unbelievable in that particular moment. That run, that 73-yard run, Robinson had 23 carries for 198 yards rushing on the road. And that was a defensive front that had 2 high NFL draft picks, Zadarius Smith and Bud Dupree, both still playing in the NFL. What do you think? Let me know. We'll do 100 teams coming up next. Stick around.
Farm Bureau Insurance stands ready to provide financial relief to our communities in this time of crisis. This includes a one-time credit to all personal auto policyholders, a donation of $500,000 to the Mississippi Food Network, and additional payment options for those hit the hardest, all while continuing to service customer claims as well. But this is the time to go above and beyond. These are a few ways we're keeping the Farm Bureau promise. To learn more, talk to your agent or visit us online. Go with the home team.
Every farmer understands their farm can't thrive without some good partners like sun, soil, and rain. And farmers in North Mississippi also rely on another important partner, Mississippi Land Bank, because land and farm financing are Mississippi Land Bank's primary focus. We've grown alongside these farmers' crops for more than 100 years. We understand what a farmer needs, and we know the lay of the land in North Mississippi, and that's where I stand.
Bull. There's a lot of that out there in the wireless world. But C Spire believes that you deserve a plan that is what it actually says it is. Here's the real deal. The best plan for 1 or 2 lines. Unlimited talk and text with 10 gigabytes of high-speed data. And here's the real deal. $45 per line with auto pay and paperless billing. Even without auto pay, it's just $50. Now, how's that for the fine print? No bull. That's the real deal. Switch to C Spire today at cspire.com/real deal. C Spire, customer inspired. Man, that sounds like summertime in Mississippi, doesn't it? You know what else just screams summertime in Mississippi? Country Pleasin' Sausage from Country Meat Packers in Florence. Check me out. Jalapeno and cheddar. Just got it at Kroger in Tupelo where I live. On grocery store shelves throughout the Southeast. Cut it up, throw it in the frying pan. Put it on a bun. Get some andouille, make some gumbo. It is the best sausage you've ever put in your mouth. Country Pleasin' Sausage, countrypleasin.com. It is made up of hand-picked hams, bacon, and pork loin. That's why it tastes so good. I even got this cool hat from them. Check them out. Go by the butcher shop there in Florence, or order it online, or look for it in grocery stores. Walk up in there and say, Country Pleasin', please.
A lot of people in the equipment world, things kind of go in trends, I guess, if you want to say it. So kind of the first big thing for 2020 that we look at when we start evaluating our business is going to be our turf equipment. That's kind of the first big push, because once everything, the water dries up and the grass starts growing, this is what everybody's looking to get. We carry the new Wright stand-up mower. Doesn't look like much and it's dirty as all get out. But this thing is, and it costs just as much as zero turn. Not a cheap unit at all. I mean, if you go out there and look at that zero turn, this thing right here, I mean, it's got all your components from your big pumps to your commercial engine to your large steel deck. And these guys were the first ones to make the standard mower.
Hey, are you buying land or selling it? You need to let Matt Anderson with National Land Realty help you out. Matt Anderson Properties. Here's what Matt can do. If you're buying land, you can view the property without ever setting foot on it. They've got the 360-degree interactive drone touring. It's really cool. You got to check it out. And if you're selling property, Matt's going to get you consistent reports, comprehensive reports of who's looking, how many people looked at your listing. You need to let him help you. Matt Anderson Properties with National Land Realty. Call him, 601-408-5155. Hey, if you listen to the show, you know that the new third hour of the Matt Wyatt Show is brought to you by Overstreet Properties in Starkville. Here's what you need to know. If you're looking for a weekend home or condo, full-time residence, investment property, maybe just an apartment to lease, you got a student going to school at State, call Kane Overstreet at Overstreet Properties. In Starkville, it's 323-8618, or look them up online, overstreetproperties.com.